how.
If you don't make money, we can't do stuff like Ntu saying we can't. Just now, as spring kicks in, we'll be making some announcements with another important institution about a huge project that the Vodacom Foundation has invested some 12 million rands into.
Okay.
And counting. You saw when we were asked to step up, we needed vaccines, 15 and more million rands, airtime for health workers, masks, and all manner of things that you're on the other side of 20 some odd million rands. All of that becomes possible by us running a good business, but absolutely to price sensitively for what the country needs.
I was waiting for you to put in the part where you said, oh yeah, and definitely we'll zero rate Sky Off HD. Anyway.
I would be biased if I did.
So we are coming towards the end of the show. Oh, and Bella still got two more questions. Okay, do your questions before we go to the...
Nothing about hair, though. You can see that.
No, yes. Absolutely nothing about hair. Yeah. Okay, you hair care and everything.
Yeah.
Got you.
I'm also a barber and a gardener.
Nothing this man can't do.
I mean, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know is the relationship between telecom companies in this country, particularly with Vodacom, is a positive with the banks of the country?
We provide wonderful enterprise solutions into the banks, which enable them to be able to do the level of transactions that you now enjoy. A lot of that runs on our backbone. So we have a very constructive relationship. So if anybody had the impression that we're quote in competition with the banks, far from it. The day might come, but until then, there were a whole bunch of people who were excluded from the financial economy for decades. M-Pesa comes along, and now we've democratized access to that. Those were not people who had been serviced by the banks. Today, the banks can begin to find their way to understanding those customers better and then being able to solution them. You can't do that when they're on the outside.
Of course. So then my follow-up question, which is the second question, is with a bank like Standard Bank launching their Unayo product, wouldn't that then mean they are competing with you because they're literally going after the unbanked now?
They are, but what a beautiful thing, because it means that as a sector, and through the competition between us and ETL and others, we've managed to make that space attractive that the banks are now coming into it. We would far rather have a situation where there's universal access to financial services than say that we want to be protected and to not have the banks competing with us. If they satisfy the requirements that the central bank puts into place for what it takes to become a player into that space, let them compete, and customers will decide which offering best suits them. But again, it's a manifestation of something good that we have done. And if you're doing good in society, you have a right to exist. The day we're not doing good, we won't have a right to exist.
That's the quote for today.
That's it, eh? So you've got two quotes of the day.
Oh, that's golden.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is time then for what we are here for. We bring you here and we talk to you for 1 full hour just so that we can ask this question. Everything else actually pales in comparison.
You, and then when you think you're comfortable, boom.
So all your answers have been brilliant until now. If you answer shit now, like
it's all over.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Leave now. My son is calling. Hello, boy.
The name of the segment is Reimagine the Kingdom. Yes. In this segment, we want everybody to postulate on what this great kingdom can be. It's called Reimagine, by the way, because it is our view that this kingdom has been great. So can we imagine it great again? And what does that look like? One, and give us a medium-term and long-term view on how you would like to see this thing. Yeah.
I'd love to see us embracing and growing the agricultural sector and allowing the likes of us and challenging us to apply our technologies to bring them to bear there so that we can increase yields, address the country's food security situation. There are very few economies that have grown successfully while being net importers of food, and especially on as widespread a basis as Lesotho is. So I think we have to absolutely catalyze that, and it's also an important space where if you look at the kibbutz in Israel and such, where they've been able to push that stuff down into community level. Because one of the good things about this country is that the people still have land. We just have to make it more productive, and so that for goodness sake, we stop stripping the mountains bare, trying to plant corn and all this other stuff that's just going to leave them barren and unproductive, rather than giving us the things that we need to treat COVID and a whole host of other ills which are afflicting the world. I'd want to see us having a more predictable investment climate that allows for our regulations to be boring. Something happens, we can go to the courts, solve things easily, so that we make ourselves an attractive investment destination. I'd love to see government going more asset light and shedding housing and a whole host of things that it's a good catalyst for developing, but not necessarily a good asset manager. Taking that investment, paying down some debt, but also setting up and making funding more widely available for anybody who has a good entrepreneurial idea. And we would then obviously, with the other players, support the enterprise development and coaching of those entrepreneurs so that they don't make the same mistakes that we did when some of us started our first businesses decades ago. I'd love to see us being a lot more specific in terms of how we invest the pools of capital that the country does generate, those pension funds that just get exported to go build other people's infrastructure. Let's create opportunities for that capital to be invested in Lesotho. I'd love to see us doing better in terms of the infrastructure that Lesotho does have. Let's protect it. It can't be that Hanzo, Ahua, Budihadi, Gatse, and all these other places, the roads were finally built that allow us to access parts of the country which were difficult to access before, but we can't maintain them. What that means is that we can't build new roads. Mohale Ralebitso should start to finish, it should long have been fully tarred, likewise the other areas here, and even into the rural areas. I just want us to have more consciousness around an investment rather than a consumption mentality. And that investment mentality, I suppose, as the government has been saying, has to allow for greater private sector participation. But it also then means we have to review our approach to education. By the time I was 10 or before then, I knew what a profit and loss was. We have to change the curriculum. I didn't learn that at school, I learned it at home, being taught by my parents and learning with my siblings. So we have to change our education system from being geared towards training good civil servants for the colonialists who've long not been here, to an education system that capacitates people to be able to absolutely be an artist, but you have to be able to do the numbers so that you know when you've made a return and not. So we have to completely change our approach to education. More science and technology. So those are just a few of the things that I would change. I would also place a great deal more emphasis on tourism, to the point of saying, from wherever you come from, if you want to visit this country and holiday or invest or anything, we'll give you a visa at the border. And I know there are very many countries where it's easy to get, but allow visitors in. We're too small a country to have insular mentalities. We should be the place where people come because they'll have an easier time starting a business, accessing funding if it fits into their country's strategic priorities, and where they can have easy channels to market because there's facilitation. Light government touch, doing the right things to set the scene and providing some of the funding from the revenue generated from taxes, less consumption.
I'm going to tell you how your answer was just now. Bella likes when we have young people on this segment, because she says that the young people's answers aren't jaded.
Yes.
Isn't that the best answer we've got yet?
It really is.
It is.
See, the thing, he's combined the reality of things and the hope in it, right? So before, and I mean, it makes sense that this is season 2. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So before, the younger people was just a whole bunch of, flowery hope. Not all of them, some of them. And then all the older people, it was just, and it's just like, come on, give me life. But that, I like that. And it touches on everything. I mean, all my favorite things. I mean, he said science and art in the same sentence.
All your things,
You know?
And I don't know when it happened that it got to being seen that art is something that they gifted but dumb kids do.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And you have entire people who are celebrated because the Africans have since been deleted in history in the Renaissance, who were engineers, artists. So when they weren't building amazing things, they were doing music that's still unmatched to this day. They were designing structures, because that's a whole person. So we can't carry on, and arts and culture is one of the, what do you have left in a people if they don't have art and culture to speak of? You have nothing.
You have nothing.
You have empty vessels. They may
Yeah.
have money.
You
They
just
may
have robots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that
Because
part is very
these,
much a part.
these things exist along a continuum,
Of course.
and why should they be mutually exclusive?
They-
They've never been. You are in studio with two artists, so they'll have thoroughly enjoyed
Yes.
that response.
Yes.
Science geek artist over here. Thank you very much.
Let me tell you what we've done.
What have
We
we
have
done?
started season 2 on such a high note.
Thank you.
I hope every reimagined guest. Oh gosh, I hope the reimagined guests are
I hope
ready.
even the younger ones, because I don't want them to disappoint me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but also encourage the young people to get into the. It's wonderful that they have ideas, and there's now social media and other things where you now no longer have to workshop your idea with the people immediately around you, but torture the detail. Open up spaces and tentacles. If you're confident enough in your idea, don't worry about somebody copying it. Open it up, let them plug in, and see where you end up. You'll end up in a better place than, putting it away in a corner and not thinking of the things that you should think of before you take the jump to say that I'm going to commercialize this idea. I'm going to take all that I've worked for. I'm going to buy less hair. Let the other kids buy some, and I'm going to put it behind my idea. So
Oh, that's awesome.
let others in. Give them some hair.
Bro.
You thought I was asleep. I was asleep.
He's woke.
Oh God.
Before you go, send your shout outs
I love the hair, by the way.
send your shout outs to the people. I know LK and Tabi are listening. Send your shout outs to everybody you need to.
Hey, to my two boys, Lahakwe and Tawang, I miss and love you boys. I can't wait for your next
Feedback.
visit to Lesotho, and we'll make proper Basotho of you yet. And thanks for always believing in your pops.
Thank you so much for coming through.